Doctors of Reddit, what patient made you go, how the fuck are you even alive? I was on home call for ER in a small town, got a call from the ER nurse one night and she was like, EMS brought someone in here and they think she might be dead. I was like, well, is she? She was like, I don't know. This was a seasoned RN, by the way, so I was like, well, guess we are treating this as a code blue kind of situation. So without any further information, I jump into my car and rush over to the hospital. Once I got there, I realized why the triage nurse was so confused. In the trauma bay, lay what appeared to be skeletonized remains under a blanket. The person felt warm to touch, so I opened their eye, and a yellow, wrinkled, shrunken eyeball stared at me and then suddenly moved. Potassium of 1, for those familiar with lab values. The backstory was extreme self-neglect/depression combined with caregiver neglect. Weighed in at 67 pounds at a height of about 5 feet 5 inches. We actually resuscitated her, very aggressively, and unbelievably, after about 8 liters of fluid, she started speaking a word or two at a time and recognized her daughter. I have a hospice patient that has been on our service for 4 years. I'm either really great at hospice, or really bad at it. My father's doctor couldn't believe A, he didn't need to amputate his feet, and B, he was still alive. Dad had brittle diabetes. His pancreas would kick in and out due to a congenital deformity. At 82, he had significant heart issues, including angina, enlarged heart and clogged arteries. One day, his feet went black. Not just bluish, or grey, black as charcoal, rushed to emergency. We were told they would amputate, but to say our goodbyes. Dad refused surgery. Said he'd rather be dead, at his age. Hours later, his feet were pink. We took him home that morning. Doctor actually apologized for upsetting us, but said he'd never seen anything like it. Patient here. When I was 2, I was being treated for asthma due to wheezing, labored breathing, etc. One night it got exceptionally bad, so my mom took me to the ER. They put me face down to do a CT scan. This was 1990, and when they were done, they turned me back over and I was blue, had stopped breathing. CT revealed a volleyball-size mass in my chest. Emergency surgery revealed what was supposed to be my twin. It kept growing inside my ribcage and finally had nowhere to go in my toddler body, so it cut off my airway. It had fingernails, hair, appendages. Everything but major organs. I made a full recovery. I am a healthy 31-year-old now. Zero asthma. Only remnant of that night is a scar that goes from the center of my chest to the center of my back. Veterinarian. Dog hit by a train. It severed the dog's leg and the dog carried its own leg home. Owner brought dog and leg to the ER. Edit, leg could not be reattached due to significant damage to limb. Dogs do great as tripods though. During residency, my ICU patient had to have his chest reopened less than an hour after 6-hour open heart cath surgery. He needed 12 units of blood, his heart massaged then shocked 4 times. Cardiothoracic surgeon in the ICU operating because no time to go back down to war. Was an illicit drug abuser and alcoholic. Nurses called him the cockroach. I checked in on him for 4 weeks. He was unresponsive every day. On week 20 we had to consult ENT to take maggots out of his nose. I was sure he was a goner after that. Week 3 passed, no change. Week 4, day 24 I believe, at 6 AM, he opens his eyes. I was shocked. He has a permanent track and ostomy now, but somehow is alive. Lady in her mid-30s was in the clinic for a 1-week follow-up post-foot amputation, diabetes. She was admitted straight from the clinic because her blood glucose was 600 mg/dL, normal is 80 to 120, and the wound was severely infected. We used super concentrated doses of insulin to bring it back to the 200s. She was on strict diet restrictions and we couldn't figure out how it wouldn't drop any lower than 250. Turns out her kids, teens, had been sneaking giant 64 ounces sodas and candy bars into the hospital, literally 1 week after we chopped her foot off because of uncontrolled diabetes. Not exactly a case of how the fuck did you survive that trauma/disease, but how the fuck do you even function on your own? I work in trauma and once had a guy fall off a roof. He said he remembered hitting the bars on the scaffolding on the way down. We originally thought he'd fractured his femur, but nope, just a small hematoma. He was in bed next to a man who had broken his ribs and had a small C-spine fracture when he fell forward picking up his keys. A guy I took care of during my residency, fucking cyborg. I was the chief on trauma. Got a page about a patient en route with a stab wound to the chest. When the patient rolled into the trauma bay, he had no pulse. He had been stabbed in his left upper chest, 3 centimeters below clavicle. He got an ER thoracotomy. If you want to feel like a badass, then do an ER thoracotomy. We were able to cross-clamp his aorta. We took him right to the OR. We oversewed one small artery below his rib, then transported him to the ICU still intubated. 8 hours later he was extubated and wanting breakfast. Seriously, dude? He was dead 10 hours before. He was also a complete asshole. No wonder someone stabbed him. Obligatory not a doctor, but my dad is and he liked to tell us about the crazy shit he saw. This post made me think of one of those in particular. Huge guy, linebacker build, came into the trauma ward with a gunshot wound dead center of the chest. He could breathe fine and he had a pulse. So they did a chest x-ray and found that the bullet had spent all its energy getting through this guy's sternum and was just resting on his pericardium.